From the Free Press, this is Honestly, and I'm Barry Weiss. If you're anything like me, you are a sucker for a good spy show. Homeland, Tehran, Fauda, The Bureau, I could go on. I have seen it all. I'm fascinated by the life of spies, the secret meetings, the double and triple lives, always one step away from being exposed. Perhaps because I could never imagine myself doing something like that. Most of the time, those characters that we see on TV are pure fiction. The stories are the stuff of Hollywood. But my guest's new book, The Sword of Freedom, reads just like one of those fantastical thrillers, except every word of it is true. Yossi Cohen, the former director of the Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, spent most of his 38-year spy career in the shadows. He was known only by a letter, Y, or sometimes the model, a reference to his good looks. He was, as he writes, a ghost, never to be seen and unable to be heard. I was invisible, a breath of wind in human form. Cohen operated under thousands of different identities in some of the most dangerous places for an Israeli to be. And he personally orchestrated some of the most daring operations in his country's history, like stealing half a ton of Iran's most secret nuclear documents from a warehouse in Tehran, assassinating Iran's top nuclear scientist using an AI-powered machine gun operated remotely via satellite, or setting the stage for the pager attack that crippled Hezbollah last year. He also created secret relationships with Arab leaders, relationships that changed the direction of the Middle East. If you look online these days, you'll hear that the Mossad has been behind everything from tsunamis to floods to political assassinations of famous Americans. So I could think of no one better to actually answer the question of what the Mossad does and to address the conspiracies that swirl around Israel's version of the CIA than Cohen. Today's conversation is a rare glimpse inside the shadow world of the Mossad, a conversation with a man who helped shape history from the shadows and who is now out in the open and considering a run for the prime ministership. Stay with us. Yossi Cohen, welcome to Honestly.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, a lot of people on the internet believe that you are my boss because they believe that I am a member of the Mossad.
Oh,
but
really?
This is actually the first time that I'm meeting you, or at least as far as I know, any member of the Mossad. So I'm very excited to meet you.
I'm the first one that you've ever met, but you know.
There might be, I might have met people.
Might be others that you know the world.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, you're going to, in this conversation, of course, reveal to me all of the undercover operatives that I may have met unwittingly.
Okay, I can't do that, I'm sorry, but I can declare that you're not part of my operations. I mean...
Thank you so much.
You've never been an object, as we call them, or an operator yourself.
Don't you think I would be like the worst spy ever?
No, I'm not sure. No, I think that you'll be okay.
Really?
Do you want to try?
Let's later in the conversation get to that, because I am wondering the qualities that being in the Mossad requires. And you write in your book about, so just to set it up for people, you were in the Mossad for 38 years.
Correct.
Rising from a case officer at the age of 22 to being the head of the entire organization. Before we talk about one of the things you write about in this book, which is that you have a gene in your body to be in the Mossad, something I want to discuss. First, I want to set the table for people, because the Mossad is an agency that is just shrouded in so much conspiracy and propaganda. Simple question, Yossi. What is the Mossad?
Well, the Mossad is an intelligence operational body. I mean, one of the, I would say, the important three that covers the needs of our defense in the state of Israel. There is like our Shin Bet or Shabak, the local FBI, as normally do. I mean, they are collecting intelligence and they operate inside the state of Israel and, of course, in Judea and Samaria and the West Bank and in Gaza. There is the military intelligence that covers more than that, including, 8200, Shmona as we call them in Hebrew, and other stuff. Mossad is the only operating body outside of the state of Israel, and we operate behind the enemy lines. Enemy lines could be anywhere around the globe that is of a need for us to operate. So what do? We are there to collect intelligence. We have to know what the enemy is planning for us. This is number one. Enemy could be an Iranian or a terrorist guy. These that are trying to conduct nuclear stuff. to annihilate the state of Israel, or these that are trying to kill us, Israelis or Jewish people around the world, or other citizens too. So Mossad's job is to know and to disrupt, and to know and to cancel their ideological and filthy stuff that they rewrite again and again and again against the state of Israel. So this is what we do.
So the Mossad is the Israeli equivalent of the CIA?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
At 22...
And MI6, these that are considered the James Bond ones, exactly there.
Why are you recruited? What did they see in you?
Well, it's a good question. I was in between different chapters in my life. I just resigned from my military service in the army. I fought in the first war in Lebanon in 1982. That was in the end of my service, and I left actually to a proper university in London. To improve my English and to learn the world a little bit. That was the first time that I was deploying myself with Aya, my wife, abroad, and they have spotted me there. I think that they don't really know in the beginning who you are. If you send us your CV, we will say, okay, it looks interesting. The age, the culture, the background, the Israelism, the Zionism, the values that we're looking for. But then, you have to go through at least 1 year of tests and exams.
So the Mossad, when they approached you, first of all, how did they approach you?
They just called me.
They just called you?
Yes.
They said, we're the Mossad?
No, of course not.
What did they say?
Ministry of Defense or Ministry of Foreign Affairs or some cover stories. You don't really know who they are, but by the fact that they don't reveal exactly what's the nature of the expected job that you will do, you do understand immediately. It's kind of a mutual understanding quietly that I know who you are, you know who I am, but we don't say it loudly one to each other.
So but this was before you had any tests of any kind. When
Absolutely.
The Mossad then was looking at you, who did they see? What would have been in the profile? 22 years old, religious?
22,
what were the
22
stats?
years of age, I was already recruited. The recruitment, the procedures started eventually earlier than that, prior to that. I think there's something in your... I would say character that plays the most of what they are looking for. It is not only that proven to be part of the and kind of an Israeli war that I fought. Okay, and I described to them what I did in the war, and I was there, slightly injured, fighting against terrorism in Lebanon. So this may be part of what they were looking for. It's a big exam. If you go into a battlefield, then you do what you have to do, not worrying, not shaking, not escaping from the battlefield, stuff like that. People do scare when the first shots are being heard. That was not the case in my case. And more than that, I think that what they're looking for is your character, mainly. You do work in this kind of job because you have this certain character to, I would say, to support the operational needs. So it may be the age of 22. By the way, I'm holding the national record on that. No one was recruited before that.
Really?
Yeah. I am still the youngest ever to be recruited to this line of operational
And what kind of family did you come from? Was there something in your family background that indicated to them you would be a good spy?
No, not a good spy, I think. But the family was super Zionist. I come from both ends, from ultra-Orthodox families, Haredim, on both lines. My mother's, my father's.
People that wear the black hats.
Yeah, absolutely. But my grandfather from my mother's side, he was an ultra-Orthodox during the days, but at nights he fought the Brits and the Arabs. So he volunteered to the Haganah.
Wow.
At the time, and he was the commander of the Haganah troops inside the old city of Jerusalem.
And the Haganah is the pre-IDF, before the state of Israel was established.
Exactly. All these undergrounds, as we call them, the Machtarot, and the undergrounds in Israel have formed eventually what we call today the IDF. The Haganah, Etzel, all this went under Palmach, all this went under one big roof that we call the IDF. So we had one flag, one gun, and one national anthem, and everything now is under the same roof. But in the past, they were fighting not only one each other, but against the Brits and the Arabs. So, and my father too, he was a member of the Etzel. That's another underground, different style, when he was a teenager. So my background is from ultra-Orthodox Zionist to Orthodox Zionist. I think that the question, should I or shouldn't I say yes to this Mossad approach, was ever occurred, I was thrilled, astonished in a way that they haven't approached me. And I said, yes, of course. What can I do?
But you're 20, but you're a kid. Did you have any idea when you were saying yes, what that would mean for the shape of your life?
Of course not. Even in the past, I mean, now people do know more about the Mossad and how is it to be an operative of the Mossad. At that time, not only that I revealed, I mean, the unit that I'm going to be serving in after 2.5 years of training. It took me a long, long time to be certified. Like by the age of 24, I was certified operative, which is eventually super young. And I started to run the world. Not to run the world, to run in the world.
You were running around the world.
Around the world in operations, undercover and risking, and doing my life was like under certain level of risk on daily basis. I mean, but you don't know that in advance. I mean, you can't. More than that, you don't really know how will you behave at real work.
What's the training? We know what the training is like if you're becoming a Navy SEAL or a Marine, and they're, have these notoriously difficult marches and sleep deprivation. What is the training like for becoming a Mossad operative?
The training is most of what we do is that we're trying to teach different tools that are not there in the market. You can't really go into universities and study what we are training, what we train our operatives about. And this is something that goes all the way to the way that you have to play your cover stories, the languages that you're going to use, the cover stories that suits your character. And then this is only a tool. And then how do you imply, how do you actually operate under this cover story and to achieve what you have, what is needed to be achieved. And there's a lot of physical training too. You don't have to be really a James Bond. I mean, this is not what we do. You don't have to jump over helicopters, even though we do. But you do have to use a variety of tools, and you have to know how to protect yourself, of course, when you are in a situation that no guns are available, or you have to protect yourself by yourself. And the only absolute shield that you have in between you and being discovered by the enemy is your cover story. And this is something very deep to understand. So there is a cover story, but there is eventually a kind of a target that you have to achieve. And the target to be achieved are different. Targets are different. Training is quite tough. Not many pass it. I mean, I think that are
you in a cohort, or is your training alone?
No, we're group of.
You're with a group.
Group of. Close to, I would say, 60-70% of these that have entered the course would be dismissed. So we even get to the point that in one of the courses, I mean, we've ended with 1 certified operative. In another one, we ended with 2 certified operative. And that's a year, right, of training, or 2 years of training. It's a lot. Not many do. Not many can. It's a very specific, I would say, either character, mentality, or tools that you have to use in order to survive this kind of training, and then in order to survive this kind of real work. And passing rightly the training does not mean that you will be operating rightly. So it has to be proven again and again, and even to throw you down to the field. And that's somehow hard.
Well, so we're going to talk about some of the cover stories that you had and some of the operations that you write about in this amazing new book, The Sword of Freedom. Here's one of the things you write, though. I have a Mossad gene in my body. The job and espionage is in my blood. What does that mean?
Exactly.
What does that mean?
I like it. I mean,
what do you like about it?
I like the risk, in a way. I like the play. I like the game of espionage. I like achieving, this kind of unexplicable targets that it would be nothing that the normal world is dealing with. I like traveling abroad under my covers. I like approaching people that think that I am either a Canadian lawyer or a British author or a French designer, whatever it is, and tell them my good stories. And they do know that I am who I have presented in my cover story, and I know most of every details on their life. So this kind of game, this kind of espionage part, this kind of risky arena that I'm in, I like it. And this is what when I say I have the gene in me.
One of the things that fascinates me and anyone that's interested in espionage and spycraft is the circle of people in your life that are allowed to know what you do. Reporters who wrote about your, adventures and, the things that you accomplished during your 30 years before you became the head of the agency, they would refer to you as Y or the model, presumably because of your good looks. When your wife was reading those accounts, did she know that that was you? How,
Oh, yes, she did.
What is the familial connection to the Mossad? Is your wife allowed to know, or your children allowed to know? And the bigger question, of course, is the profound loneliness of having so few people know your true life.
Right.
So tell us who was allowed to know, and B, talk to us about just the loneliness of being sort of like a ghost in the world.
Well, it's a very big question that Mossad is dealing with it every day. What should we tell them, our partners in life? So we have decided some years ago that the wives could or should or must know everything. All right? You don't really have to share all details of the professional part that you're doing. They don't have to know like super discreet or super secrets. I mean, of the state of Israel, I don't share it with my wife, but she knew from the first minute that we are recruited to the Mossad together. Why is it? Because our Shabak, our Shin Bet, has to investigate her.
FBI.
The FBI has to investigate her as well. She had to go with me on the polygraph test. I mean, before being recruited completely to the Mossad.
Wow.
So they're telling her, who are we and what I'm expected to do. They have to know. Why is it? Because of the loneliness, because of who you are, because you're traveling. I mean, they have to know that you travel so much. You have to know that the family is ready to contain or to hold this as one big part. And I was recruited to the Mossad being married already. We were married at the age of 20. So 2 years of marriage. I mean, I was a soldier when we got married, and then I am now at the Mossad. I mean, if she had said no, it means that the family could not contain or cannot hold this kind of challenge, which is different than being like my mother being married to a banker. Right? I mean, 5 o'clock is there in the evening. I mean, taking showers with the kids or participating in dinners. I've lost most of my private life because of that job. And it is true. You do travel alone. But because of the meaningful life that you carry, because that you know that you are traveling or you leave Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, as I always refer, anywhere I go, I have Jerusalem in my pocket. I refer to that then again and again, because you know that you're doing something so meaningful. Okay, it helps your loneliness. Okay, it helps being alone. You're never a lone wolf, but you do travel alone. There is a huge office behind you. There's a huge country behind you. Okay, the state of Israel entirely. I mean, the people of Israel or the Jewish people are behind you. You know that you're doing something good for the sake of your country. This is what holds us so tight. This is why we are not only available on 24/7, but we are capable of carrying the risk. So you'll ask us, are you guys normal? I mean, what do you do? Are you out of your mind? You go to Beirut, Damascus, or Tehran? Why? Why do we do that? I mean, the risk is ultimate. You're not only risking your freedom, you're risking your life. You can be, unfortunately, or God forbid, chas v'chalila, you can be whatever, jailed or exposed, right? If you had, chas v'chalila, been exposed. And we do it because we believe in the target. Well, because we believe in the cause of being an operative or operating in sake of to save the country or to make our defense better.
How many characters do you think that you took on over the course of those 30 years?
I don't know, thousands? I don't know.
Thousands.
Yeah,
hundreds.
I think so. Hundreds for sure.
Okay, I want to talk about one of them.
Really?
You write that your major languages are French, Arabic, and English. I will not test you on French or Arabic because I don't speak either, but your English is very good.
Yes.
Exactly. We'll see. I have a long career ahead of me.
Right.
You talk about tracking this veteran Hezbollah terrorist in Lebanon, and you track him to Latin America, where he was sort of trying to start a new business life. And your cover story, and this is how you describe it, you are a sour, cynical Argentinian businessman seeking partners to make money with few questions asked. Tell me about that character. How did you build the credibility of being an Argentinian businessman?
Right.
Are you very good at accents? Like, why that character? Do you figure out the characters on your own? Does it come with the support of an agent that's running you? Explain to us a little bit about how that happens.
A little bit about that, because this is part of only the tool that you have to use, right? As I said, this is the only shit that is getting you into the battlefield. Like, it's like the uniform that you wear. So how do you build a cover story? I mean, I will not go into much details, but the few details that we can discover today is that you have the target or you have the mission, okay? You have to build up your cover story that it would suit the mission, all right? So let's say, I'm going to be a little bit cynical here, but let's say the target is a Hezbollah operative.
Yes.
Terrorist. And let's say that he is running a kind of a new line of business, but he is connected to Hezbollah. He was super senior guy in Hezbollah. This was the one we wanted. Let's say I will tell him that I train dancers in the Bolshoi. Would that work?
No.
I don't think so. Okay, so what do? I know what he is doing there, and we've learned about him a lot. I mean, the only one of the advantages that we have on the objects is that we know their file. Okay, we live with them without them knowing that we live with them. We know his background. I mean, we collect around him before we approach him. We know that he's traveling. We know what he thinks. We know what he likes. We know his habits. We know his cons and pros in life, the negative points, the dark points that he wants to hide. We know all of these, right? Because of the power to collect. So a cover story has to meet his expectations. So if you come tell him I am a dancer trainer, he would say, not even nice to meet you, sir. Right. I'm religious. I'm Hezbollah. No, I'm from Lebanon. I mean, go away. But he will tell him, I'm a businessman. I'm an Argentinian. Very nice meeting you. And I'm looking for some new frontiers, okay, to develop my new future business. And I consider going into the Middle East, but I'm not sure.
Perfect.
Oh, really? Tell me more about that. So you create a kind of an interest, okay, so to pass through his barricades or to pass through his walls of defense. So to enter his first brain and then his heart and soul. Because in the end of the day, you want to make him your best friend, but he doesn't really know who you really are. I mean, unless you've been nominated to National Security Advisor, as I was. I mean, and my photo was all over suddenly. Because till the age of 52, I was either Y or other, nicknames that I don't like, but that was there. But they don't really know who you are. I mean, they know who you are because you're telling them who you are, and they have to like you. They love you, so they have really to be your best friends. So to reveal what they have.
One of the things you write about in the book that blew my mind is you oversaw the assassination of Iran's top nuclear scientist in 2020. And for people that are not familiar with this operation, you guys did this using an AI-powered machine gun that was operated remotely from outside Iran. And this one really reads like a Hollywood thriller. You basically describe how the weapon was smuggled into the country, to Iran, piece by piece, reassembled in a pickup truck, and then operated remotely via a secret command center. How did you come up with that idea, if you indeed came up with that idea?
Well, you have to come up with a good idea when you have to know that there is something to do inside Iran or in other places. Okay, there is a must do, right? Or must have. So this is the target, this is what I want to achieve. The target has to be achieved in a certain manner that will not risk physically as much as we can our operatives. Sometimes we're very, very close to the target, super tight to the target. I mean, it happened, according to foreign reports, many times, that you have Israeli operatives on the target itself, right?
Like in a hotel, wearing a wig.
In a hotel, let's say in Dubai, according to foreign reports and whatever fake news, or in Amman, right? When the Mossad tried and failed, to get rid of a Hamas operative, or Hamas terrorist, again. And sometimes you're trying to, because of the complexity in the territory, you're trying to make it you're trying to create as much distance as you can from the target. Not because of the target, because of his security. And in that case, he was guided by 15 bodyguards. And a convoy of in between 4 to 6 cars daily. And we have lived with him. We know the target very well. I mean, we knew him. That was the second time that
When you say you lived with him, you mean that some of the bodyguards around him are Mossad?
Maybe.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe. In order to make a good operation, you have to penetrate through all holes and walls. You really have to be the closest that you can to the target itself. Meaning that if I have to know what he is thinking or what he is planning, there is a way to know that. There are many ways to know that. I can recruit him. And it happened too. I can recruit his entourage. It happens too. I can recruit his chief of staff or the wife of his chief of staff. It happens too. I can go into his inner circles while operating around him without him knowing that I operate around him. Okay? And the other electronic means that you can do, I mean, 8200 and other, cyber hacking and stuff like that, what you have to use, I mean, in order to learn about what he's planning, who is he, right? When you have to operate, you have to get super close to the guy, knowing exactly what are the things that he's doing on a daily basis. When does he wake up? How does his bedroom look like? His car, his habits. What does he do 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:08, 8:09, 8:45? I mean, you have to know that minute by minute every day. And we have discovered that he is doing what he's doing because we have been very close with him. We traveled with him, we'd been with him, we breathed with him, we listened to him. I mean, all of these means that we have to use, had been eventually used. And we come to the conclusion that being close to this convoy of his would be too risky for the operatives. And the escape door and the tilt door that will eventually keep them safe could not be secured in that case. So we had to invent something different. Now, using AI is something very modern. I mean, it is at the Mossad, I mean, for some years now. And this is what we did. I mean, trying to make sure that we will get to the same result with the lowest risk possible. And this is what we did. Yeah, I know it sounds science fiction, but it is not. I was there in the command and control room, I mean, the entire night or the entire day before the operation, and I saw it happening. And you see it live. I mean, it's like, it's really, I mean, it's kind of a movie, but it's a tough mission to achieve. And more of that, there's not much joy behind it, right? I mean, you're happy that, again, that you are serving the country, that you're doing the things that you do, to serve the blue and white flag and, to make sure that the state of Israel will exist. And this, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, was on the top of the pile of creating a nuclear bomb for the Islamic State. And we could not offer that.
One of the most astonishing Israeli intelligence operations was this Hezbollah pager operation. And in a lot of the reporting that's come out about this, and I think this is even more than the day itself, I think the thing that's most wild about it is how long it took to carry that out.
20 years.
20 years.
Yes.
Now, Israel, and this is something I want to talk about later, I think rightly gets criticized for not having any long-term strategy. That it kind of goes short-term thinking, hot war to hot war to hot war, and sort of ignoring existential questions, maybe like a Palestinian state. Mm-hmm. But in this case, the Mossad seemed to have a long-term strategy that boggles the mind. Tell us a little bit about, if you can, go behind the curtain, how you guys pulled this off, how you came up with this idea. There's like the setting up of tell the story if you can of the background of that explosive operation.
Well, the short version is that when we understood at the beginning of the year 2002, let's say 2002 to 2004, that we have big enemies around us. Not only Hezbollah in Lebanon, but we had the Syrian army. And then we had some difficulties and challenges in Iraq and mostly Iran. I was nominated by Meir Dagan to run the subdivision of special operations, special ops, as we call them. This division has to invent different type of methods to counter the enemies, but using the upgraded or the high end of the Israeli technologies to make sure that we get what we need. And what is it that we need? There are 3 sectors, okay, in intelligence that you need. You need to know, right? It's either looking, watching, listening, investigating, stuff like that. You need to know locations. You need to know where they are, the bad guys. What are the command rooms that they're using, the bunkers that they go to, the cars that they're using, etc. And sometimes you have to disrupt it by either explosions or like turn a button and the element would cease to operate. These are 3 elements that have been developed by me as the head of the division for the first time in the Mossad history. And the one thing that you know by now is the pagers and the walkie-talkies in Hezbollah. The method of being part of the supply chain of this organization started 20 years ago, or more than 20 years ago. Why is it? Because I want to know what you're saying. I want to know what you're thinking of. I will penetrate in your bureaus, in your whatever academies, in your entities, in your whatever you are, command and control rooms. I mean, all these elements that are yours, commanding, I would love to go and be part of what you do inside. I want to see what you do. I want to listen to what you say. I want to take what you have, right, in intelligence. In order to do that, you can recruit people. But we've understood that there is another method that should be used, is that I can sell you some stuff. I can sell you different elements, and I should be to sell you these elements part of your supply chain, meaning I have to know what you're looking for and I have to be then part of it. But how can I be part of it if I'm not, again, a company undercover? Who am I? Why am I offering that? You are a terror organization. How do I know that you're looking for this kind of stuff? Who am I selling you this? Can you sell me that stuff? How come you can sell me that stuff? Who are you, the company that you represent, and so forth? All these challenges have been eventually covered and invented in 2002 till 2006. By 2006, Barry, we've already used it. And that was the Second Lebanon War. So in Hezbollah. So part of the elements that we have used at that war were manipulated equipment that helped us to do exactly that. To know, to locate, and to disrupt. And since then, till today, I hope till today, we're still using the same method. It's hard to do, but it's worthwhile doing. So pagers are exactly the same. We've learned that Hezbollah is looking for pagers. They said, why don't we? Mossad will supply you with. Said, who are you? And we had to cover a big cover story, very thick cover stories that would say, we can do that, and here are the pagers that you're looking for. And by the way, it's not only the element that you're selling important. The element that you're selling has this kind of 3 capabilities: knowing, locating, and disrupting on this kind of explosives. But it has to be exactly the same as the original one that the original company is producing. Okay, same size, same weight, same electronical behavior, right? And we know that everything that goes inside these bodies are going to be tested and cut into pieces to make sure that nothing bad enters this one. So how do you cover this again and again and again? So I would say the espionage or the spying
But is there like
issue,
a tech bureau of the Mossad? Like you're not coming up, right?
Of course. I mean, the biggest unit of the Mossad is the tech unit.
Right.
Yeah, thousands of people are working. I mean, like, what's his name again for the MI5? It's Q, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so the Q division is huge.
So I think the thing that is hard, I think, for me and maybe many other people to square is that the same country that was able to pull off a operation with a 20-year tail that required multiple different heads, I can't even imagine the amount of planning and long-term thinking that went into that. And strategic thinking. That same country on October 7th was overrun by people, terrorists, on trucks, on motorcycles, and paragliders, using no tech whatsoever.
Right.
Square that for me.
I can't. But I would try to, I will try to express my feelings about it, right? First, I think it was a major failure.
But I guess what I'm wondering from you is it a failure of imagination that Hamas would do something like that? Is it a failure of leadership, of is it all of the above? Like when, I imagine, given your professional history, you look at something that fails and quickly can discern why it's failed, an operation like that. So why?
Well, I feel very sorry, for the descriptions I'm going to give you, but this is the reality. Gaza Strip was eventually close to be abandoned by the Israeli security services when the disengagement has happened, with Prime Minister Arik Sharon, rest in peace, eventually disengaged from Gaza Strip. We've lost the actual physical hold that we had in Gaza, like we had in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank.
So just to help listeners who are not familiar with this, in what year was the pullout from Gaza? 2006? So in 2006, the Israeli government made a decision to pull out any Israeli Jews that were living in the Gaza Strip, all of them from everywhere.
Right.
And the idea was that and I want to make sure I'm describing this correctly, the strategic thinking behind it was we are going to sort of withdraw. They will have their own place. We will have ours. And it will ultimately, it was part of the mentality, I think, of land for peace. The idea that if you give the land, perhaps you can get some peace.
Barry, you can describe it as part of the Oslo agreements. Another chapter. We had Oslo 1, Oslo 2. That was Gaza and Jericho first. If you remember that was made by Shimon Peres and Rabin as prime minister. And then we had the Hebron agreement that Bibi Netanyahu did and gave them this territory, Hebron, and then we had Gaza Strip for partially, with a very small quantity of Israelis, so 8,000 altogether. 2 million Gazan people, 8,000. But these 8,000 were under heavy risk.
And a huge amount of Israeli military resources were going to protecting them.
Right, and that was probably...
And when would you say the majority of Israelis supported the pullout plan?
Not actually, but yes, the government supported that, and was a governmental decision, a parliamentary decision, and the rest is history. We withdrew from Gaza Strip, and then 2 years later, it was conquered completely by Hamas. It means that Gaza still, from then, that point and on, behaved, in terms of defense and intelligence, differently. And to my understanding, it is more like Lebanon, Hezbollah, or if you want, Iraq or Iran. These are places that you don't go with a jeep, with the 2 Kalash or whatever, M16s, and you arrest someone, you bring him to investigation, and you know that he is part of the terror organization. Now you can either investigate or jail him and do whatever you think is right, to disrupt his terror activity and bring him back, if he's okay. This is the practice that we have done in Gaza for many years. This is the practice that we've done. I used to work in Gaza myself as an operator of the Mossad, to be trained, to do this kind of stuff. And again, Arabic and more than that, I worked in Gaza Strip. I remember that practice. We had high presence in Gaza all over. All the cities that you can now you know better of. But when we disengaged from Gaza, together with the army, eventually we've disengaged with our intelligence capacities. And in 2014, when Protective Edge happened, and that is another round of violence that is happening between us and Hamas, I was then National Security Advisor. And now I realize what is the level of intelligence that the army is using, to fight back or to counter terrorism inside Gaza. And to my understanding then, and you remember the penetrative tunnels and all that we were not aware of how many are they, where are they, and all that. The level of intelligence was, to my understanding, to my judgment, really poor. I got to the National Security Council after being deputy director at the Mossad. So all these methods that I've learned at the Mossad, I didn't see any of these applied into Gaza because Mossad was not part of it. We're not doing Palestinian story, right? Abroad, yes, but not in these territories.
So just to say back to you what I'm hearing you saying, you think that the Israeli government should have been treating Gaza much more like a place like Iran or Lebanon, and using... Should have
treated that like Iran
and use the
Lebanon.
Mossad in Gaza the way that it's used in those hostile foreign environments, but instead was using the Israeli equivalent of the FBI, the Shin Bet.
And you cannot.
And why? I want you to draw that out.
Because FBI can knock on any door, all over the USA, according to the federal law, and arrest and investigate and ask and take whatever he needs, according to your federal law again. You cannot do that in Gaza Strip anymore. I mean, Israelis are out of Gaza, like you cannot travel to Iran or again Lebanon with your Israeli passport.
So then why was it the Shin Bet, which again for listeners is the internal Israeli security organization, their equivalent of our FBI. Why were they in charge of overseeing the situation in Gaza and not the Mossad?
Because that was the habit. That was the Israeli habit. What I offered when I entered the Mossad, re-entered the Mossad as now as the director in 2016, I offered the prime minister to take responsibility of special ops and intelligence on Gaza, telling him it does not behave as it used to behave. And I see the level of intelligence super poor. Let us apply what we know to do, all right?
And what did he say?
With our methods, with our operatives, because you don't go into Gaza Strip with a blue passport, with the Israeli one, right? You don't do that. You don't tell them, right, I'm coming from Tel Aviv, like they do to our direction, right? I mean, Gazan people can come across these passages into the state of Israel and work with us, as they did till October maybe 5th, right? 2 days before the holiday, or 2 days before October 7th. 30,000 of them came into Israel. But we cannot go there. Israelis cannot cross in. That's a battlefield of different scale. And I thought that in order to help the national intelligence capacities, they should apply Mossad methods. And I, unfortunately, was refused.
Why?
Whatever.
Well, ego. You say when you raise this idea of the Mossad operating in Gaza, you say you sensed in those meetings little humility and a lack of modesty. Are you talking there about the prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, or other people as well?
All of them. I think that was a big mistake.
If they had listened to you, do you believe that October 7th wouldn't have happened?
I don't know about that, but I definitely know that if Mossad was capable of doing, the expected job inside Gaza like we did in other places. And I can't say that Hezbollah or Iran nuclear scientists or significant work that they do inside Tehran, you know what? And the theft of the nuclear archive from the heart of Tehran is easier than Gaza Strip. It is not. It is not. It's just a different profession. You know, when we discuss spying and espionage, these are special ops of espionage. You have to know how to conduct things undercover. You have to know how to penetrate these kind of guys undercover. You have to know that you have to be like them undercover. And I didn't see, there are a few who did that, but I didn't see that the capacity that we apply on Gaza in order to get the intelligence we need is happening. And that's why I shouted very out loud. It will be part, I believe, of the National Investigating Committee that I hope will be formed one day. Why is it that we're still keeping the same structure as we did 20 years ago when we have left Gaza and not applying something new like maybe Mossad can help us? So, I don't know. I mean, all combinations of all characteristic attitudes that I can say have countered that, unfortunately. And by the way, I'm not sure if it is part of what has happened on October 7th. I know that in October 7th, one of the major failures was intelligence. We didn't see them coming.
Where were you on the morning of October 7th?
I was home.
How did you first find out about what was happening?
The phone was ringing like hysterically, one after the other. And then I called the headquarters of the Mossad. I mean, my partners there, partners from the past. And you said this is happening, and I volunteered, to help everyone who needed help. Watching the television was like a disaster, but as I describe it, I think in my book, I was surprised. I was not surprised, but shocked. I was not surprised because I knew that the level of intelligence is so poor. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say that, but I cherish my counterparts in the other organizations. In the IDF or Shabak altogether. But I can't go behind the truth. The truth is that if the level of intelligence on October 7th was good, so we had an alert. All the alarm clocks would have been like ringing strongly, saying 1,500 terrorists are coming your direction. It's not a small unit. My my proposition was, or my plan of work was in the past, is that I have to find every lone wolf cutting from ISIS in Iraq on a motorcycle to Syria, and then probably walking into Lebanon, and then trying to get an international flight, landing in Paris alone. That was my mission. Make sure that he will hit no one, neither Israelis, Jewish people, or proper Italian, French, Brits, Turkish even, right? And I did disrupted a lot of opportunities like this. I mean, a lot of operations being conducted by us in order to counter even lone wolf operations, not units, even the one only.
Right.
1,500? Too big not to know. I mean, think about the years or the months that it took to prepare all that. Think about how many people were around or behind the scene preparing the logistics and their tools and the needs, the cars, the armaments, the ammunition, the training, the communication systems, the visual systems. I mean, the command that was behind it. I mean, thousands of Hamas people had worked on that story, and we didn't see a thing, or we saw very little of it, as I suspected we will. So when I flagged in 2016 that we don't have enough intelligence, proved to be right in 2023. And yes, the intelligence line collapsed completely.
Has been at the helm of Israeli leadership on October 7th, and now is the person that has had the longest reign in Israeli politics in the history of the country. He is also, I think you could fairly say, the person that's made your career, if there's anyone that's made your career in addition to you. Netanyahu picked you to be his national security advisor in 2013. He appointed you to be the head of the Mossad and then made you the chief negotiator during the Abraham Accords. You were one of his closest officials. You write that you had Bibi's trust and he had your respect. I'm sitting with you now and you haven't spoken to the Prime Minister of Israel in a year and a half, maybe a little longer. What changed and when did it change?
Well, I mean, we're not friends. All right. I mean, I never had my commanders or prime ministers as my friends. There is a distance in between my friends and the command or the chain of command. He was my proper prime minister for all these jobs that I have served the state of Israel, even prior to the National Security Council. I mean, prime minister is the last signee on your nominations, even at the head of a division already, like kind of a full general. I mean, he has to agree to that. And deputy director has to agree to that. And he did. So practically, he nominated me 4 times. All right? Not directly, but twice directly. It's a lot. And again, I refer to him with a huge sense of respect because this is what I thought about what he is doing. And I think that the defense story or the defense file in the prime minister's office is highly, highly protected. Like he really cares about the security of the state of Israel. I volunteered October 8th to help negotiating for the hostages, explaining the PR, the hasbara that we don't really have, and creating kind of a humanitarian corridor in between us and Egypt, so to help the Gazan people leave Gaza before the war starts, and to help the troops of the Israeli side, to complete their targets without creating any humanitarian crisis. And he accepted that. The last paragraph, he did. But then, for some reasons that are with him, I don't know, communication stopped and my mandate left and I'm not doing it anymore and we don't speak to each other.
But there wasn't like an explosive falling out of any kind?
Nothing, no.
He just ghosted you?
No black cats or how do you say? Nothing crossed our mind or our doors or whatever, our path. We don't fight, of course. And I think that I could have contributed more if he wanted that or if he needed that, but unfortunately it didn't happen. You
have said that Bibi is responsible for everything that happened on October 7th. He has never apologized, really, for the events of October 7th.
I think he knows that. And
you think he knows what?
I think he knows that he's responsible for everything. I mean, even if you don't apologize, right? Even if he doesn't take any responsibility, as I claim that he is, I sent him a very clear message openly. I mean, when I gave interviews in our television, I said that he has to declare elections. So we will decide that if he should be again the prime minister or else. But he never did. And more than that, Barry, I mean, when do you take responsibility? When is it that you take
when you make
responsibility?
a mistake.
No. When you were nominated. When I take this very one short piece of paper that it says, Prime Minister of the State of Israel, the government of Israel nominates you to be the head of the Mossad. Please sign here and here. That's the date that you're taking responsibility. From now on, everything that happens
on your watch is your responsibility.
In Barry's wise operations here at the Mossad under me is your responsibility. Not when something went wrong. Not if something goes wrong. All the time. For good and for bad. For better or for worse. If it is okay, take the credit. I mean, everybody can take the credit when it's okay. But when it is something or went wrong and you do fail, all right? Of course it is your responsibility. Whose is it?
Well,
right? So you don't take responsibility when something went wrong. You take responsibility because you are the commander of the Mossad. All over. Everything that happens from the first day to the last day.
Yousy, as you know, one of the criticisms of Bibi, and there are many of them, but one of the strongest, most passionately held views inside Israel by very patriotic people is the quite cynical read that, and maybe accurate, which is what I want to ask you, that the prime minister is continuing the war because he wants to remain in power.
I don't think that is the case. I'm aware of this criticism. And I don't think that Bibi wants to continue the war. I know that he wishes to complete the war. I know that he wants to have an achievement that he doesn't have completely yet. Because in the beginning of the days of the war, he said, these are the targets of these days, of the coming days, of that war, if you want. Defeating Hamas and Hamas rulement inside Gaza and returning all hostages. This has never happened yet.
But I would argue that those two things are possibly mutually exclusive.
Mutually exclusive one to each other, or maybe working together, because I think that there is alignment in between what the government wants to achieve that I can agree with. I mean, everybody in the world wants to see Hamas defeated, right? Everybody in the world, and in Israel included, wants to see the hostages back home. So how do you make that? How do you get to that?
And how do you defeat Hamas if the thing that is keeping Hamas in power is the hostages, you could argue?
Well, so it's not
that is their biggest bargaining chip.
But it is not only in our hands. And as I can argue, I mean, with the world and with the Israelis that are criticizing, I mean, everybody is criticizing everybody now in Israel so dramatically, that the minute Hamas will eventually will hand over the hostages to us, this will be the absolute declaration of the end of the war. It's absolutely in their hands. If they really want to make sure that the Gazan people will not suffer anymore, if they really want to make sure that the war will be eventually or completely ended, they currently should hand over all hostages.
But it's existential
to
for
our
them.
Hands.
You're saying, you are speaking as if one of their goals is the Gazan people, the innocent Gazan people not suffering. Of course they won't.
Of course not.
Right. So if they give up the hostages, they are essentially
okay. So let's
done.
Let's do it, Barry, with your permission, step by step. So it's not because of Bibi, right? Now the question was, does Bibi want the war to continue forever? No, I don't think he does. I don't think that he wants the war to be forever there. I know that he was trying in the past to disengage from these opportunities of wars, right? I mean, he didn't want to do that. But I'm not in the inner circle of decision makers anymore. Unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know. I'll have to think about that. But nevertheless, I think that in the end of the day, when we are in the, as you said, unfortunately, the hands of Hamas, and the decision of the end of the war will be taken mutually by the State of Israel and by a terror organization, this is the poorest, right, point of the strong State of Israel, coming back to the same of of the same discussion that am I shocked, disappointed, surprised that we're in that situation? I am not surprised, but shocked that we're in that situation. Looking at the videos coming up of Gaza Strip of the October 7th and onwards, looking at the ceremonies of releasing the hostages, and they're still there. 2 years, and Hamas is still there. This is only because of one fact, that they're holding our hostages. Hamas knows that. I think that if we can jump, fast forward to the times of the attack in Doha, I think that was the reasoning of doing all that.
This is the recent failed Israeli attack
right,
on a group of Hamas leadership
absolutely,
in Qatar.
Yeah,
that was not successful.
Probably not. Part
we
of
would
them
know if it was successful.
Exactly that, but maybe they were like in between situations. I don't really know that. We'll have to see them publicly. Some of them have appeared publicly already, and they give another very strong and filthy statements. Against the state of Israel and the aggression that we do, but they're still there. If we like it or not, we don't like it, but they're still there. So we have to cope in a way strategically with that element that there is Hamas organization that we have to discuss with indirectly, but we're in the hands of Witkoff, Rubio, Hamas leadership, not directly, but Qataris or the Egyptians that are trying to mitigate a kind of a hostages deal. And I truly believe that if this will be succeeded, if all these hostages, Bezrat Hashem, will be released, with God's help, will be released from Gaza Strip, I think that this will be the absolute statement and declaration of the end of the war.
I want to go beyond Gaza for a second and maybe widen the aperture to the broader Middle East. You were the chief negotiator, as I mentioned, for the Abraham Accords with the UAE and Bahrain in 2020, and you write this in your book. I remember the tears that ran down my cheeks as I sat on the south lawn of the White House while the Abraham Accords declaration was signed on September 15th. Two questions. Could you ever have imagined—
Do I cry often?
Yes. Well, do you cry often?
No.
Could you ever have imagined—
But I go emotional, often.
Could you have ever imagined something like that happening in your lifetime? And could it have happened under any president other than Donald Trump?
Interesting. The vision that I have within is that we have to be very strong, firmly strong, to fight our enemies, but we have to achieve peace treaties in the Middle East. Practically, this is the only way to survive in the Middle East. Our military is strong, but it's expensive in the highest price that we're paying. Even today, 4 soldiers have been killed by terror organization again, and that's created a lot of sorrow. It's very expensive for the state. To conduct this kind of relationship with the world. So it's so much better, to cross the line and to turn enemies into friends, and this is what the Mossad is doing. And I think
could another president other than Trump have accomplished that?
Practically, I didn't see anyone doing it. You had different presidents. Carter did the Egyptian agreement. Clinton did the Jordanian agreement. Let's skip the Oslo agreements when Yasser Arafat received the Nobel Prize. Forget about all that. An Ahli terrorist, receiving a Nobel Prize is quite weird to me. But going into these Abraham Accords, I believe that they had been pushed dramatically to this direction of the peace treaties because of this president that I appreciate a lot. I think that under President Trump, 3 or 4 accords, peace treaties were signed. Cynically, he didn't receive any Nobel Prize for that. I know other presidents here that have received Nobel Prize without doing any peace treaties, but just because of declarations that we will strive for peace in the world.
Does he deserve a Nobel Prize?
Absolutely, yes.
Well, the next huge country that everyone's looking toward to join the Abraham Accords, of course, is Saudi Arabia. And you have built a pretty close relationship, it seems, to MBS, Mohammed bin Salman. He's the 40-year-old crown prince. It's hard to believe he's that young. Here's what you write in your book. I have great faith in MBS as a pivotal figure in the region. I have found him to be tough but fair, perceptive, and pragmatic. He has the potential to personify an era-defining shift in emphasis and expectation. He is at the vanguard of a new generation of regional leaders. The Saudis have said that they will not normalize relationships with Israel. In other words, they won't sign up to an Abraham Accords agreement until there's a Palestinian state. Do you believe that?
I think that there is a gap publicly and
what they say in public and private.
Exactly.
What do they say in private?
that they will normalize relationship with the State of Israel as long as they will have two major conditions prior to that. One is the end of the war. I mean, you can't sign an agreement, a peace treaty, when there is a war, an active war. I mean, with us. I mean, it's not that we're fighting someone else. I mean, we're fighting terror organization, of course, but we're fighting Muslims and Arabs. I mean, not because they are Muslims or Arabs, but because they are a terror organization. But we do that. So in the rules, I believe, in the Middle East, I mean, you can't really fight and make peace treaties. You can't go into the South Lawn of the White House and sign an agreement while there are
of course
people dying on the other side of the world. And this is number one. Number two is that Saudi Arabia haven't completed its normalization with Americans because he has some demands, I mean, from you guys, right? He wants the defense pact to be signed. He wants to have kind of a nuclear facilities, I mean, to enrich. He said, if Iran can, according to the agreement, I can do that too, for civil materials, of course, for civil purposes, of course. So I believe that the sequence would be end of war, normalization, complete normalization with the Americans. I mean, so you will endorse what he needs, and you will tell him guaranteed that if worse come to worse, and because of this peace treaty, he may be attacked by Iran. That's his filthiest enemy. He needs some assurances that he will keep his country safe, knowing that he can't do that alone, even if you will sell him the best armaments that he can, and you will probably, even if he will have the best air defense that he can receive from you or from the others, and he has a lot of money, I mean, to buy all this. I think that he needs you to be on board when the worst comes to worst and practically or potentially will be attacked by Iran. This is what you're looking for from the USA. If these two will be completed, I think that we can go to negotiate a future peace treaty. With the Saudis, of course.
Okay, so I want to talk just for a second. We could have a 2-hour conversation just about this, but about...
Aren't you tired?
A little. No, I'm not actually. But about the question of Palestinian statehood. To me, this is at the core of I think, a very, very cogent criticism of Israel, which is they don't have a long-term strategy, and they've sort of
Israelis?
The Israelis. Mm-hmm. They've sort of sleptwalked into an untenable situation. And the untenable situation is both options are impossible. The situation in Gaza, the story, the sort of arc that you've laid out there, which is 2006, Israel pulls out, a terrorist statelet is set up 3 years later at the border, and now look what's happening. The lesson from that, of course, or at least to many people, is why would you possibly do the same thing in the West Bank, which is many Israelis call Judea and Samaria? So on the one hand, it's an impossible situation. You can't give the Palestinians a state. On the other hand, it is an untenable situation to continue to rule over another people.
Right.
And you might disagree with the way I'm characterizing that. But
No, but this is the way, I mean, that you can describe it. And anyone that is holding kind of a piece of whatever intelligence or information, I mean, from the media, from the social media, could have an opinion about many things. I mean, it could be very dangerous sometimes, like in Charlie Kirk's assassination, unfortunately. But, I mean, anyone can refer to anything as much as he wants. But that's okay to ask. Because to my understanding, I mean, the pure split that we had inside the Israeli society, I mean, these that thought two-state solution is the solution, these that thought Israel is all ours, this split is over. We do not do that anymore. Why is it? Because of the reality.
What's the new consensus?
We don't have any. The new consensus is wait and see. The new consensus is, I mean, there are, some on the left would say, two-state solution is the solution because look at what's happening if you don't have a solution. Part on the right would say, no, we have to annex anything. I mean, if everything will be ours on the West Bank or Judea and Samaria, so the peace will arrive or we will control the territories. I think that the State of Israel is not ready for a new updated strategy, mainly because in order to create a peace treaty or anything, with the Palestinians whatsoever, you have to have a Palestinian authority that has the authority. And today, there's nothing there. Abu Mazen is not controlling but his own people and barely do that too. Why? Because we're helping to do that. When he threatens, and I've been listening to him many times, that he will disengage from the security cooperation between the State of Israel, I offered him to do that, but he will never resist a day in the office. Why? Because he will be eaten alive by the Hamas, which is super strong in the West Bank. So who is fighting Hamas in the West Bank? We do. Together with him sometimes. This is one Palestinian territory, which is not all his or all theirs. Mm-hmm. The other part of Hamas, or the other part of the Palestinians, are Hamas and Islamic Jihad. They do not accept our existence. Like, think about their pure split. Khaled Mash'al, I mean, the one that we've tried several times, to get rid of, which is probably holding at least 7 souls, declared again and again and again, recently too. I can show you the video. He said, 2-state solution? No way. 1-state solution, Palestinian state, from the river to the sea, from the north to the south. It's all ours. I do not accept the existence of the state of Israel. Therefore, we cannot negotiate a Palestinian state. So whom should we negotiate with? There's no one there. Unfortunately for them. And you see the international pressure, for me, in a way, is ridiculous. Who's pushing us? Or let's say that there will be tomorrow a declaration. Now I hear that Australians and the Canadians and the French, everybody's going to declare the Palestinian state.
The French have talked about doing it, right?
Yeah. Where? By whom? Who's going to run the state? Do you see a prominent government that can do that? You can see them running to close to 2.2 million Palestinians in Gaza Strip under you. We gave you the entire territory, the 365 square kilometers of Gaza, to you, Palestinian Authority. What have you done with it? Nothing. Why is it? Because you're incapable of doing it. So when they declare that there will be a future Palestinian state, okay, but it is nothing practical around it. You can't really translate these words now into action. And I think that the consensus to your question, Barry, in Israel is that we are united under this understanding.
The wait and see understanding.
The wait and see understanding. Don't do. Some would push for annexation, some would counter that. Some would say, let's go back to Gaza Strip, some would counter that. And I think that the majority of the people of Israel are abandoning the idea of direct negotiations with the Palestinian Authority whatsoever, because there isn't anyone to negotiate with.
Let's talk about the role of Qatar just for a second. We could, again, talk about this for a very long time. But it seems to me that they harbor Hamas. They, put Al Jazeera into the homes of zillions of Arabic-speaking populations across the world and have absolutely horrific content that radicalizes people. On the other hand, Israel negotiates with Hamas via Qatar. America has one of its largest air bases in Qatar. Explain to us, what is the role of Qatar? Because I think it's deeply confusing to people.
Absolutely confusing because of the media, again, and because of the mixed messages that are coming out. I do not blame the media. I do not blame these that are confused.
No, they're reflecting an actually muddled reality.
I know. The muddled reality is that Qatar is, for us, is kind of a very active tool that we are using, this kind of relationship that we've conducted with them till today, to negotiate or to mitigate a kind of a hostages deal. I think that when that deal will be, with God's help, over and completed, we will have to discuss the future of Qatar, not only for the state of Israel. We do not have any open political or diplomatic relationship with the Qataris. You do. Mm-hmm. Not only you. The world does. Everybody. I don't know even one country that is not working with the Qataris. The world is working with the Qataris. World Cup, the football matches, everything was there. Endorsed by the world and FIFA, Shmifa, all that. Everybody went to Qatar happily. Billions of dollars were poured into these countries. All leaders, presidents, everybody was endorsed by the Qataris. Come work with us, come deal with us. And suddenly Qatar is the bad boy of the neighborhood. Al Jazeera is not new.
None of it's new.
None of this is new. The only thing that we have to calculate after the war is on the Israeli side, what do you want to do with them? Can we work with them? Can't we work with them? Look, Qatar is not much different than Turkey today. The rhetoric, that the president of Turkey is using is even worse than what the Emir of Qatar.
It's genocidal.
Not only genocidal, he compares Benjamin Netanyahu, our prime minister, to Hitler, openly. And he doesn't seem to be accountable for his words. I mean, the world is not going against Erdogan and telling, oh, you know what now? We will dismiss you from NATO because of this language that you're using. So the world is a bit more sophisticated place than it seems. And I know it. I've been part of these difficulties to straighten equations that will look very tough. In one hand, you have Al Jazeera. On the other hand, I need them to help the Gazan people. In one hand, I know that they're donating money to their terror organization. On the other hand, they will host the Olympic game, whatever. I mean, the FIFA thing or the World Cup. How do you straighten that? What do you do? The only thing that I'm doing in terms of being like former Israeli, or now I'm not what I did, not what I'm doing. What I did in the past is that we use them, or we let them know what are the Israeli needs majorly in Gaza Strip, so they can help us do that. It was our policy. By the way, till today, I've never heard the government of Israel declaring that Qatar is an enemy country to us. It is not, by the way. Israelis are working in Qatar. Israel is officially selling weapons to Qatar, defense weapons to Qatar. Cyber security elements or companies are working in the country. We know that. I mean, yes. And you say, so what is this schizophrenia's behavior?
It's schizophrenic.
It is. What is it? It is the sophistication of the reality. Because the reality is not black and white. The reality is not black and white. Qatar listened to us carefully when we wanted them to help the Gazan people, like as they call the money suitcases, right? I'm blamed or crucified in my country for being part of the delegates or the delegations that have led this kind of operations. Not operations. I mean, we really wanted the Gazan people to be better. And the only one, not only the only one, I mean, US aid was in Gaza Strip as well. Turkish aid was there too. Norwegians and the Europeans, I mean, all over Europe. And the donors and everybody was helping the Gazan people. I mean, to make sure that the Gazan people would live correctly since they've been conquered by the terror organization, by Hamas, correctly. So this is Qatar for us today. Maybe after the war, we'll have to recalculate.
Are you optimistic about where Qatar could be a decade from now?
Very optimistic.
You are?
Yes.
As optimistic as you are about
Very
the Saudis?
Well, it depends on their behavior too. But, you know, I mean, I do remember the times that Qatar was boycotted by its neighbors in the GCC. Not so long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, nothing. I mean, they've been it was like Qatar was sieged. Okay, no flights in, no flights out. Boats could not do that. The only way that Qatar received supplies, do you remember the time? That was like 3-some years ago.
I do, because we ran an enormous piece about Qatar. And it's,
right.
Yes.
I mean, the only way to supply the Qataris with food was from Turkey down to Iran and then crossing the waters with boats into Qatari ports. All the rest was, we couldn't fly over Qatar. The country is under a siege by its neighbors and friends, and they're back in relationship today. So when you see the surprising or not, conference in Doha 3 days ago, on Sunday, 5 days ago, all Muslim leaders from the world are coming, not only Arabs. It's not only the GCC, it's not only even the Arab League. Everybody was there, including the Iranian president. Everybody's coming, I mean, to support the Qataris. So nations are shifting their policies according to their needs. Israel will do that the same way.
I think
America too, by the way.
One of the things that's kind of unbelievable, if you think about your career, if you think about the last 30-something years, is that the Middle East that you were sort of operating in as Mossad director, you know, with Assad in Syria, with Hezbollah dominant in southern Lebanon.
You miss him?
With Iran's proxies.
Saddam Hussein.
Everywhere, Saddam Hussein.
Hezbollah.
It's all different.
Hassan Nasrallah.
It's all collapsed. Like,
so
where will the region, there's too many things to ask you on this, so I'll just ask you, are you happy about the direction of things, and where do you think things will be a decade from now?
I'm very happy with the direction that things are taking right now. First, I will start with you guys in America. I mean, American presence in the Middle East is super strong these days, and this is very helpful. The only missing thing that we had in the Middle East, I mean, not us Israelis, but my partners in the Middle East, is that America is absent. Okay, you didn't feel the American capacity, right? Now you're back. Not only in Iraq, but you're all over. Negotiators are traveling to Beirut. Negotiators going to Saudi Arabia. I mean, negotiators are inviting Putin's delegation into Riyadh to negotiate the future Ukrainian-Russian deal, and more than that. That's number one. Number two is that I think that when Iran started to conquer the Middle East bit by bit, cutting through Iraq, then in Syria, together with Assad, as you have mentioned him, and then to Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut, and then down to Hamas in Gaza Strip on the other side, I mean, to the Yemen Houthis, this is going to be eventually changed. We have changed dramatically, I mean, the strategic map of the Middle East. So less Hamas, not over. Less Hezbollah, not over. No Syrian army, completely over. Iraq is under your control. I'm happy that you're there. I mean, that was the one request that I had for President Biden on my last days at the head of the Mossad. I told him, don't leave Iraq. Just don't go. If you did, okay, if you open this, whatever button, I mean, if you open this one, they will come through from Iran directly into Iraq, so stay along. And fortunately, you are there. I know that some other actions that, or some, whatever, I mean, movements that will maybe want you to leave Iraq, I suggest you stay there. And Iran, eventually, I mean, we have destroyed, I mean, their nuclear capacities, even not to zero, but the enrichment capacity so far has been destroyed, and I'm very happy with it. So we've started, nothing was planned, as I said, no strategy. We didn't have a strategy, I mean, world strategy. I mean, that you say, okay, we have Hamas, then we have Hezbollah, then we have Syria, then we have Iraq, then we have Iran. Why don't we do that as we did recently? So that was not planned, but it is happening. So I truly believe that in the end of that war, first, the State of Israel would be in a much secure position than it was in the past, and this would lead potentially to peace treaties negotiations better than it was ever in the past. Now, even today, Al-Jolani, I mean, from Syria, declared that he's negotiating with the Israelis about a kind of an agreement in between us and them. And this is wonderful. I don't know if he is the wonderful guy to deal with. I mean, whatever, an ex-Al-Qaeda and all that, but he may do something good for the sake of the Syrian people of a deadly war and for the sake of the State of Israel's security too. So, yes, I mean, I'm optimistic, and I think that the changes that we're facing right now could be dramatically good, I mean, for the people of the Middle East.
So I'm going to overstate the point, but this is a thing that I think a lot of people in this country who care about the America-Israel relationship are worried about. And what they'll say is that there's a chance that Donald Trump is going to be the last pro-Israel president. And what they mean by that is not that there's going to be a president necessarily that's an anti-Zionist in 2028 or the next election after that, but that young Americans have turned so profoundly against Israel. There was this Pew study that came out last year. 14% of American adults under 30 say that their sympathies lie with Israel. What is Israel doing about that? Because Israel loves to talk about how it has a PR problem. And I sort of wonder if that's what the kids these days call a cope. Like, it's the thing that they tell themselves as a way to feel better.
First, I mean, I think that it's a bad direction. It's a very bad direction. I think that the State of Israel needs America. And we need America strong, and we need America next to us and beside us, or our side, on our side. And this is something that has to be eventually worked upon. Directions of us liking better, I mean, this party or the other party is wrong. And I think that was exercised by the Prime Minister.
Like how Israel became a partisan issue.
Exactly. And from within, I'm bipartisan. I said it thousands of times. I mean, to my counterparts in America, to my counterparts in Israel, I mean, to the people of Israel and to the people of America too. I like Americans whatsoever. I like America and I like your president, whoever he is. Okay, there are disagreements, I mean, between either president or the other, but one or the other. But nevertheless, I think that this is something that has to be worked upon. I think that we have to exercise much better relationship between Israel and America. I think that it has to be stated openly that we like and we need America. By the way, that was my last conversation so far with President Biden at the White House when he invited me when I was still chief of the Mossad. And And he said, okay, Yossi, after a long discussion, he said, okay, Yossi, so we have some disagreements. I said, okay, Mr. President, but this is one thing that I want to tell you. We need you. We need you. The support that America supplies, whatever, to the state of Israel is crucial. We need you, not only because of the $41 billion, MOU arrangement and all that. I think that we can do better with our, we're doing so much better with your
But is Israel preparing for a world in which it cannot rely on America?
Of course not. We're not prepared for that. Israel will defend itself by itself is a title that we keep on highly, right? No one helped us so far. You do, okay, with armaments, with your F-35s and F-16 and the precision guided, whatever, the JDAMs, whatever you know. We attacked together Iran, which is, I think that you referred once that there is a cancer, stage 1. And you said that we're lucky not to have cancer on stage 4 in what's happening here in the USA, right?
Do you mean with anti-Semitism?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think that in Iran, when
I said that, I think we were in a different place. I think it's gotten far worse than whenever I said that.
I think so too. How to Fight Anti-Semitism in your book, right?
You did your research. Thank you, Yossi. Yes. But I'm saying that was in 2019.
You're not the target, though.
No.
So don't worry about it.
I'm saying that was in 2019.
Right.
Like, a lot has happened since then.
So, I think it is a common task, to the American people and to the Israelis altogether, to combine something, maybe a force, I don't know even what would it be, okay, that I'm willing to participate in, to make sure that your youngsters, and it has to be presented upon all universities. You have to go to the colleges. You have to go to the hardest colleges, right? These that have said that depends on the sequence or depends on the matter that you can be an anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism eventually can rise inside the campuses because of they have the right to do that, right? It was in Harvard, in Columbia, these tough places. And I think that we're losing the absolute good opinion or positive opinion about the state of Israel. But we can work on that. It is all about us working on that. I don't think that it is relevant than ever to do that. This is the thing that we have to make sure we have because we need you. As I told the American president, I'm telling you, Barry, we need you.
You've talked about how you're going to run for the prime ministership. You going to do that?
I'm not going to do that right now. I'm not sure that I will never do that.
You've said, what you said a few weeks ago is for real change to happen, I need to be prime minister. That's as close to a declaration that you're running for prime minister.
But I'm not, actually.
Let's say that elections were called.
I would try to do that in a very modern, absolutely more modest version of mine. But to wrap this discussion, I think that the state of Israel needs a change. And I think that the current leaders that I see on the political map are not in a position to bring a change. Because what we're looking is unity. What we're looking is, to work together, all Israelis, to one target. Leave aside the conflicts that we had in the past, as we've discussed. Two-state solution, not two-state solution. Annexation according to this one, against this one. So I think that as I said on the Israeli media, I said that the ingredient that I can eventually provide to the state of Israel is something that is close to an absolute unification of the country of its all angles. Everybody. And then it needs to be a prime minister to do that. But I'm not going to run for a long time now. I'm not sure how many years I'm not going to go into politics.
But you might run.
I might run sometime in the future.
Okay.
When I will be mature.
Okay, we're going to do a quick lightning round. Was Jeffrey Epstein a Mossad?
No.
Not an agent, not an operative, nothing.
Nothing.
Why do people believe that he was?
The people believe that Mossad has created the tsunami. People believe, just right now, that we have been behind Charlie Kirk's assassination. False. We don't do that. We never will. We never did.
One word for the following people. Barack Obama.
Interesting president.
Joe Biden.
Another interesting president.
Donald Trump.
Super interesting president.
J.D. Vance.
Good vice president.
Steve Witkoff.
Amazing negotiator.
What do most people believe about the Mossad that isn't true?
Everything is right.
I've seen so many movies about Israeli spycraft. Tehran, Fauda, Munich, The Debt, Homeland. Are any of them true? And have you seen any of them?
I saw them all.
You saw them all?
Oh, yeah, of course. I love it.
What's your favorite?
Because it's science fiction. I mean, I love watching science fiction. I mean, what's my favorite, I think, would be the French series, by the way, not about us. It's Bureau de Légende. I mean, I'm not sure if you saw that. Le Bureau. I mean,
Bureau.
Yeah,
I saw it.
You saw that?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Okay.
That's a really good one. By the way, Mossad is in it, of course. I mean, we're helping, saving operatives, French operatives from being captured in, what was it, Tehran or Baku? But that's a very good one.
Best Israeli prime minister in the state's history?
Menachem Begin.
Interesting. Worst?
I can't say.
Best foreign intelligence agency that is not the Mossad?
CIA.
Is the best?
Second.
Do you think that your good looks have been to your advantage in doing espionage?
I do not admit that I'm a good looks.
Okay. Is humility part of your cover right now? Your cover persona?
Maybe.
Okay. What's the favorite character you've played? You've played thousands. What's your favorite one?
I think the favorite one was the French-Lebanese character that I combined. These two languages that I love a lot. French and Arabic. And I had been many characters under these two languages.
You write in your book about how you turn sources by finding their weaknesses. If you were trying to find my weakness, what would it be?
I don't know you enough yet, but I will.
Yossi Cohen, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Barry.